informational purposes only and is solely responsible for its content. It does not reflect the views of Cumulus Media, WPRO, its management, or its staff. News Talk 630 and 99.7 FM WPRO presents Intellectual Medicine with Dr. Petteruti. Join Dr. Petteruti as he guides people towards living the 120 lifespan while retaining youth. He'll apply logic, reason, and scientific evidence to address conditions that drain people of their joy and vitality while protecting people from the harmful aspects of conventional medicine. Now, here's Dr. Steve Petteruti.
Good morning, happy listeners. It's Dr. Steve Petteruti. This is Intellectual Medicine. It's another beautiful Saturday in Southern New England. Thank you for tuning in. And thank you to our Facebook people around the world for watching us. That's very cool. Well, today, folks, as always, we're here to be the vanguard of advances in intellectual medicine. Things from the frontiers that can aid you in living better, living longer, living healthier. And they're not all available through Orthodox medicine. As much as some purveyors of Orthodox medicine would like to believe, they are not a monopolistic entity in control of all that has value in healthcare. They would like to believe that. Who wouldn't like a monopoly, though, Shannon? Wouldn't that be great?
I don't know. Kind of.
Complete, total monopoly.
Right?
If you want healthcare, you have one choice only, and it's to come and see me, and I control every aspect of it. Well, that cuts to the heart. And today, by the way, here's our headline. We're going to be talking about intravenous and subcutaneous mistletoe therapy for the support of cancer fight. That is, to help treat your cancer, to help fight cancer. I got to be careful with language here. The enemies have long ears, and they're out there with their knives looking to kill us. But mistletoe therapy is being used in Europe. It's now available in the United States. I know, Shannon, when I first heard this, I said, really? Mistletoe? You mean the stuff with the berries that you're not supposed, that you kiss under at Christmas?
I know, at the holidays.
At the So it took me a while to dive into the research, but we have a guest on the show today that's a naturopathic physician, a leader in this field in the United States. Will be discussing it with us. We're going to be talking about common drugs for the treatment of depression, urinary incontinence, and Parkinsonism that have been tied to an increased risk of dementia. We're going to link that to issues going on currently. What can you do now that will protect your brain in the next 10 or 20 years? A couple of announcements as well, Shan. One of them is regarding the annual charity fundraiser of Havens Healing Hands. For listeners of the show, this will be a comedy show fundraiser that raises money for the charitable entity called Havens Healing Hands, started by Lori Brooks, the mother of a child who died after a fight with cancer, childhood cancer. But in the course of that battle, her child received intravenous vitamin C therapy in Kansas and had a remarkable response, enhancing his quality of life, revitalizing him in a manner that inspired Lori and others to support the raising of funds for the purpose of making this treatment available for free for pediatric patients who are fighting cancer. And we have partnered with them to help deliver this care. And once a year, a couple times a year, they do fundraisers. This one will be tonight. It's a comedy show. It starts at 6 o'clock at the Eagle Event Center, 37 North Main Street in Fall River. Cocktail hours from 6 to 7, a little buffet at 7. I will be there. The opportunity to meet you all and to speak a little bit about what's happening in the field of advanced integrative cancer therapy and vitamin C in particular, as will some of the beneficiaries of her charity. That's Havens Healing Hands. You can Google their website. Should be a fun time. Looking forward. I hope you guys, some of my listeners, get a chance to come out there. It'd be great to meet you. Another event is happening next week, Shannon. This is the Run with the Troops. Now, you can Google Run with the Troops, RI. If you've never in your life, I don't see why you would have done this, run with an Army platoon while a sergeant calls out Jodies. It's an event, it's an experience like nothing else. Have you ever done that, Shannon?
No, although we were hiking once and I think you made us do it. But
How about you, Tess? Have you ever run with troops while they called out Jodies? And they were chanting their Jody thing. Isn't that cool? I mean, you should try it. So here's how it works. You can run with the troops, fall into formation, run Jodies with them. Don't worry, it's all repetitive. The sergeant will lead you. And if you go to Run with the Troops RI, this is at Quonset. It starts Friday evening at 6:30. The sign is at 5 o'clock. You know they have a lead vehicle, Shan, normally leading these things? Well, their lead vehicle is going to be a helicopter. How cool is that? And a couple of the runners will have a chance to actually ride in the helicopter. That's Colonel Jeff Richardson is organizing this event in support of our troops. So we get a chance to do something tangible. I would do it myself, but I don't run. I'm a walking guy, and more accurate, kind of a limping guy. But a couple of fun events, and I'll be at least one of those two events. So talking about dementia, about brains, talking about intravenous vitamin C, and now mistletoe therapy. There's a common denominator here, folks. It's freedom. It's the freedom to make choices based on information that you gather, partly by listening to this show, certainly by going to the internet. I would say to a person, Shannon, every one of our intellectual medicine patients goes to the internet. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
Absolutely, as well they should. And they're researching, before they come to see me or Dr. Michael Souza over in East Providence, Intellectual Medicine East Bay, they do their homework and they follow up and they read more. One of the difference between intellectual medicine and orthodox care is that we honor that research. We believe that our patients and our listeners have a capacity to comprehend information and make their own decisions. Now, folks, you do not have freedom unless you have the freedom to do something that other people don't want you to do. Freedom is not the freedom to endorse the majority opinion. Freedom is the opportunity to do something others would be opposed to. When it comes to your personal behavior, what you do in the privacy of your home, your bedroom, the privacy of your own body, there's no more sacred arena of freedom than that. And trust me, folks, it is under assault. Orthodox medicine wants to take away your opportunities for alternatives. They want to cast them in a pejorative as if you're too stupid to make a decision for yourself. They will paternalistically deprive you of those outlets, channeling you into their monopolistic line of thought. It's been said, and it's true, if everybody's thinking the same, nobody's thinking. At Intellectual Medicine, we boldly assert your prerogative to find alternative pathways of care. We embrace our colleagues in naturopathic medicine, chiropractic care, nutritional therapies, all those fields that have been widely neglected as orthodox medicine drives you to the pharmacy, drives you to the pills, drives you to the surgery. And you know, it's audacious, but oftentimes patients will be discharged from care if they're not following the path outlined by their doctor. That is an abrogation of your freedom. Folks, trust me, if you do not assert your right for this freedom, it will be taken. Intellectual medicine, alternative care, integrative care, we're under assault every day by the orthodox powers of medicine. They would like nothing more than to shut us off. They've tried, and they're still trying. We need your support in that fight. Anyhow, we're going to talk about mistletoe. It'll become a moot point unless we have the freedom to do this. But when we come back, we're going to talk also about how your doctor and orthodox medicine can spy on you yet another way. And we've got to bring this to light, Shannon. But when we come back from the break, we will be welcoming Dr. Deirdre Orsair, and we'll be talking about naturopathic care and mistletoe therapy for cancer. I'm Dr. Steve Petteruti. This is Intellectual Medicine. Stay right there. What's that, baby? Yeah, it was quick. We got this. So, hey guys, welcome. Yes, it's true. It is true. You have the freedom to do what the orthodox majority wants you to do. Outside of that, you got to fight. Nobody gives you freedom. You take it. You demand it. And in the absence of proactive steps, it will be corroded through different pathways, right? One way is the loss of your financial latitude. Well, how does that happen? Well, they tax you to oblivion. They take your money. No money, no freedom. You know, in Rhode Island, they're talking about passing a bond. We may have to talk about this one on air too, Shan. A bond to rebuild our schools. I like schools. Rebuilding them is good. Well, guess what, folks? I'm old enough to remember when they started the lottery in Rhode Island. And for those of you that are not privy to this historical fact, it was brought into Rhode Island with the exclusive earmark for education. We're going to have this lottery, but it's all going to go to support education. Where'd the money go, folks? Now we have a lottery. We have an income tax, one of the highest in the state, in the nation. We have property tax amongst the highest in the nation. We've got a sales tax amongst the highest in the nation. And we have a collapsing infrastructure. Our schools should have been rebuilt 20 years ago when they started the lottery. Where did the money go? We don't have a revenue problem in Rhode Island or in the United States of America. We've got a spending problem. And the money's not going to the places you and I want to see it go. Our streets collapsing, our schools corroding. We don't need more new money. We need a better way to spend it. Now, that's one way that freedom gets corroded. Another way it gets crushed: bureaucratic oversight and regulation. It's when the state comes in and says to you, you can't do something because we have deemed it to be bad for you. Now, in the arena of healthcare, which I'm most familiar with, this takes on an insidious overtone, and it goes something like this. You, the public, are too dumb to figure out what's right for you, so we, the state, are going to limit your choices. We're afraid that if you have freedom, you'll make a bad choice. So we're going to take that choice away. You know, intellectual medicine talks about things that we, the state, don't agree with. So we're going to silence them, and we're going to remove those options, whether they're your supplements, your hormones, your freedom to use a compounded pharmacy. We just think it's bad for you. We, the state, are going to take that away. That's a form of totalitarianism, loss of freedom. If you don't have outlets to exercise your freedom, you've lost some of your freedom. Intellectual medicine is one of those outlets. Not to mention the other type of loss of freedom, right? Not only will we take away your options, we're going to force you to take a drug. Roll up your sleeve. I want to give you a shot. And if you don't take it, you can't go to school. The freedom to choose for your children. It's already been stripped from you in Rhode Island. You're forced to take immunizations that bear no relation to pediatric healthcare risk, but are the agenda of some do-gooders at the state who think it's in your best interest, your child's best interest, right? We don't mind immunizations. We think they can be great medicine. What we want is honest information and the freedom to make choices. Look, if there's a pandemic and people are dropping dead from Ebola all over the country, fine. An emergency, declare martial law and immunize everybody. Otherwise, you got to prove it to me. I want my freedom. Don't you, Shannon? I want my freedom.
Now, back to Intellectual Medicine with Dr. Petteruti. Call in now at 438-WPRO or 1-800-321-WPRO.
I am back. It's Dr. Petteruti. This is Intellectual Medicine. Shannon and I were just reflecting on freedom and how it applies to healthcare. Got the freedom to play whatever music we want, don't we, Tessa? We can play Cake all day long if we want to. Power's a beautiful thing, isn't it? See, you put Tessa in control, she's going to make you listen to her music forever, but fortunately, we have balance. Well, okay, they put me in control, it's just as bad. Absolute power. Well, see, so those who are in control are doing the right thing by you. Before I bring on my next guest, I want to introduce it by outlining some of this background that we face currently in medicine, and that is not too different from what it's always been. The orthodoxy of medicine is under the belief that you, the public, are just too simple and ignorant to make good decisions on your own. They hate the internet, most of them, because it enables you to get bad information. Bad information is anything they consider to be not mainstream. And the state wants to limit your freedom. They want to limit your access to supplements. They want to limit your access to hormones, your access to compounding pharmacies where individualized care is rendered, is under assault. This is all part of their institutional bias in favor of their own primacy. I've had patients of mine that have been terminated from their Orthodox healthcare provider because they would not follow the state directives. That's not right, folks. Now, we have a dichotomy. In Rhode Island, naturopathic physicians recently became licensed. Great. On the other hand, many of the things that naturopathic physicians advocate as a form of benefit to patients are under assault. Not so great. So with that as an introduction and a broader introduction to the topic of mistletoe therapy, in particular mistletoe therapy in the United States of America, I'd like to introduce Dr. Deirdre Orsayer, a naturopathic physician, a Chinese medicine practitioner, and acupuncturist. Dr. Orsayer is a naturopathic medical director at the George Washington Center for Integrative Medicine. She's an adjunctive faculty at Georgetown University. And Dr. Orsayer, welcome to the Intellectual Medicine Show. Thanks for being with us. Deirdre, that's quite an introduction. What an impressive pedigree you have. Now, before we talk about mistletoe, I'm wondering, how did you ever get to be a naturopathic physician? Why didn't you just go to medical school like normal people? Wow, Deirdre, what courage it must have taken. I've met Deirdre and have seen your center. It's fantastic. And certainly a doctor of intellectual aptitude of the highest caliber. Walking away from Orthodox medical school is really walking away from a lifetime of income security and social acceptance. Were people around you telling you, what are you doing? Just be a regular doc? Yeah. I applaud you. I applaud your independence. And what you and I both appreciate. I'm an osteopathic physician. Now, I had a much more orthodox training. I started out in the Army, where I did my family practice residency through a conventional allopathic medical residency. And I have to confess, I took comfort initially in embracing the orthodox pathway. It felt legitimate. I felt valued. And it was kind of nice being part of the majority. And the more I practiced medicine, Deirdre, the more I was running into the dead ends that you experienced personally and have witnessed in your practice. The absence of disease does not define good health. And how many of our patients come to us and say, I just don't feel good. And we're left having to navigate a path forward. That's what we do at Intellectual Medicine. It's a kindred spirit to what you're doing. But many of our listeners are not familiar with naturopathic medicine. Could you give us a quick synopsis, Deirdre, about what that is? Hey, wait a minute. Are you telling me that regular doctors don't know about nutrition? Deirdre, I take personal offense. When I was in medical school, I had an entire half an hour dedicated to nothing but nutrition. I was there for 30 minutes, and you know what I got out of that? A good nap. We're talking to Dr. Deirdre Orsayer, the naturopathic physician and head of the naturopathic medical director, George Washington Center for Integrative Medicine. Naturopathic medicine, in some ways, represents a wonderful opportunity for patients and individuals to make a different choice about their health care. Orthodox medicine has become profoundly reactive and disease-centric. It's all about bugs and drugs. What disease do you have? What drug can I fix it with? And now in your line of medicine, patients have, and in intellectual medicine, what we do, they have an opportunity to come in a step ahead of the curve and say, hey, you know what? I want to maintain my health. I know what comes next. Or I've been stumped by orthodox medicine. Or, I don't want to take a drug for everything. Is that pretty close to where your philosophy lies? Yeah. That's yeah. So naturopathic care is philosophical core. Osteopathic medicine, which is founded on a belief that the body has a profound ability to heal itself. These are kindred spirits to the intellectual medicine line of thought. And one of the things we're advocating for is a 120-year lifespan. We think that that's achievable. Tell me your thoughts. Yeah, 120, Deirdre. What do you think? You want to sign up for that? Okay. Well, Shannon, put Deirdre down for 120 years. Deirdre,
there you go.
You come see us. We'll sign you up for the 120-year program. And here's my patient guarantee. If you don't live to be 120 years, you come see me and get all your money back you ever spent at our center. Well, we need to talk about mistletoe therapy, and this conversation will extend over the break if you've got the time this morning to spend with us, Deirdre. So I first ran into mistletoe therapy. As often occurs, my patients bring it to my attention. And I had a patient of mine who was battling and continues to thrive in the face of a lymphoma, went to Canada, got a round of mistletoe therapy in conjunction with other treatments. When she left for Canada, her lymph nodes were colossal. She was having trouble eating because they blocked the passageways of her gut. Her white blood cell count was over 100,000. When she came back, the lymph nodes were gone and her white cell count had gone back to normal.
She looked amazing. She had gained like 15 pounds. I'll never forget her walking in.
Yeah.
And we were shocked.
So I started digging into mistletoe and I said, whoa, this has got legitimate information here. And I tried to get it into our intellectual medicine center, but I was afraid. It was not very widely applied. And we certainly are lightning rods for what we do. And, I didn't want to lose my ability to practice by virtue of making it available, which goes against my principles of standing strongly in favor of a patient's interest. But now, you've been offering it and delivering it through George Washington for a few years now. And when we come back from the break, I'd like to have you share with our audience your experience with mistletoe, a little bit about the theory about how it works and situations in which you use it there. Do you have time this morning? You want to hang out for a little bit? That's awesome. Dr. Deirdre Orsayer from Naturopathic Medical Director, George Washington Center for Integrative Medicine. She'll be back with us after the break. We'll be diving into mistletoe therapy, an absolutely riveting topic. And we do have some warnings to share with you later in the show, so stay with us. But before that, you can't live your happy life without a clean roof. So from the Revolution Soft Wash News Center, it's Doug Lizette. Good morning, Doug. You like that? I'm trying to integrate healthy living with all the elements of happiness. It makes me happy to see my roof clean. It just does. That's right. That's right. Oh boy. So I was talking with Tessa about the integration of happiness. I know it sounds weird, but it's true. Happiness correlates with good health. And finding what pleases you in life is part of the freedom. It's part of the freedom of movement. It's part of what eliminates fear. We're talking with Dr. Deirdre Orsayer. Now, I know you guys can't hear everything, so I'm going to recapitulate some of our conversation. A brilliant clinician, was battling illnesses as a child, and in her course of pre-med studies, encountered naturopathic philosophy, which advocates for the use of nutrition, lifestyle, and good health practice for the maintenance of your best health and for the interruption of disease states. We're finding out more and more that many of the things that ail us are not genetic inevitable disease consequences, but are the result of environmental toxins, unhealthy living and lifestyles, whether it's mold from living in your basement, or it's heavy metals from being exposed to our polluted environment, or whether it is a side effect of drugs you're on. There's a lot to be said and a lot to be done for preserving your health. It starts, however, with the freedom to acquire information, the fund of knowledge. And that fund of knowledge is broad and deep and is not the exclusive domain of me, your doctor, or any other individual. It requires a little bit of work. We like to talk about the 120-year lifespan. We do that with sincerity. Unless we start with a question, how can we achieve the goal? We will never have an opportunity to get an answer as to whether or not it's possible. Can you live to be 120? Yes, you can. Will you? I don't know. The odds are against you, quite frankly, looking at the stats. However, in the past 50 years, lifespan has extended some 2 decades. What's stopping it from extending further? We also know that health span is more important. How do you maintain vitality? Now, I was watching the news, Shannon, with George and Barbara Bush, and I thought it was a fascinating parallel experience. Here's Barbara Bush in her aged years, infirm, acquiring an illness and choosing no therapy and dying peacefully. She was lauded for her courage in making that choice. Now here's George Bush, days later becomes septic, which, by the way, is a life-ending illness for people that are aged and infirm, choosing to get aggressive IV antibiotic therapy in the hospital. And he lived. For what purpose? I'm all about the 120-year lifespan, but is there a point in time where there is a reasonableness to limiting exposure to advanced, let's call them not life-extending, but death-interfering therapies? Those who've ever experienced this horrible cycle of end of life know what I'm talking about. We call it hospital ping pong. You get sick from the nursing home, you go in the hospital. Excuse me. Hey there. 1 minute? Okay. 1 minute. You go nursing home to hospital. IV antibiotics, fluids, oxygen. You get better. That means you're not dead. Meantime, you've gotten a little weaker because you're lying in bed. You're weak to begin with. George Bush is in a wheelchair. He has a degree of dementia. He has Parkinsonism. He has sepsis. Whatever is left of him is still alive, goes back to some type of rehabilitative setting. Tick, 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 wham, here comes a bladder infection. I'm back in the hospital. Back and forth and back and forth. And then the families, right? The stress, going to the hospital. Is he dead? Is he alive? Back again. And go to the hospital. What can we do? What can we do? What can we do? It can kill the energy of all the people that love and are connected to that person. Is there not an ability to choosing when that end may be appropriate? Look, that becomes reasonable to do. We'll talk about mistletoe and about choices here too. I'll be back on this topic after. Yeah, I'm back. It's Dr. Petteruti. We want satisfaction, Shannon. This is a great song. Intellectual medicine is here to help enhance your satisfaction in living. And satisfaction in living doesn't always come from living forever or avoiding disease, but in many cases it comes from living how you want to live. I make those choices every day. Our patients make those choices every day. It doesn't insulate them from adverse consequence, but it gives them the freedom to walk their path and to face the consequences of it with freedom. This morning, I'm talking with Dr. Deirdre Arsayer, a naturopathic physician, and she is the naturopathic medical director at the George Washington Center for Integrative Medicine. Our topic this morning is, well, it's kind of broad, Deirdre. I could talk to you all day long, but it's focusing on mistletoe therapy. Welcome back after the break, Deirdre. Hey, so I wanted to give our listeners a quick update on one of the engines driving the mistletoe therapy. And that comes really from a woman you probably know of, Ivalise Page, the 37-year-old colon cancer patient who started Believe Big. And that's down in your neck of the woods down there, isn't it? And she's a woman who acquired colon cancer, had surgery. Unfortunately, weeks later was found to have metastatic disease to the liver and was given an 8% chance at a 2-year survival. She did her own research and decided she wanted to pursue mistletoe therapy instead of orthodox oncology. Now, she did have surgery to resect the cancer. And this part impressed me, Deirdre. Her oncologist, Dr. Luis Diaz, said, and I quote, "I reviewed the literature in other parts of the world, and there is some acceptance of it. I was willing to work with her," end quote. That is a profound statement of endorsement of patient choice. I don't know what's happening in your neighborhood, but here I've had patients whose doctors have threatened to fire them if they pursue alternative care such as intravenous vitamin C, even if they're doing orthodox oncologic treatment. Now we're talking about mistletoe therapy for supporting cancer patients. Tell us a little bit, before we get to the other elements of interacting with orthodox care, about this mistletoe therapy. Where's it come from? How did anybody ever think to put that in a human being? Okay. Right. So there he was. In Europe, the European mistletoe is the slightly toxic berry. By the way, people, do not go and eat these berries, please. This is not everything we're talking about today needs to be physician directed and is not FDA approved. I want to emphasize that. Has not been shown as a cure for any form of cancer and needs to be considered with due diligence and balanced consultative input from an expert like Dr. Arsayer or another clinician experienced in it, or us at Intellectual Medicine. So there he was. This was decades ago. He was doing intravenous mistletoe therapy, and it is taken root in Europe. We were talking about this earlier, that it's much more available in Germany, for instance, where they actually have integrative cancer centers. Tell our listeners a little bit about that, because they're not familiar with that here in the United States. So over in Europe, folks, Deirdre, I will be repeating some of what you say because our Facebook listeners can't hear everything. Over in Europe and Germany, they have integrative hospitals dedicated to combining orthodox cancer therapy with advanced integrative care like IV vitamin C, mistletoe, nutritional support. You know, I talk to my patients and I'll tell them, listen, an oncologist is brilliant at what they do. Their fund of knowledge is independent from that which I possess, and I don't pretend to be an oncologist. They know what they know. But there are limits to the capacity to know everything. And in our world, knowing the capacity to support health with these integrative modalities makes it a wonderful collaborative opportunity. And giving patients the benefit of both aspects of care is something that we advocate for, keeping that freedom available. Now, you've been doing this down in Washington, D.C., and you've been doing both IV and subcutaneous mistletoe therapy now for several years. What's the experience been like there? Right. Right. I'd like to read for you, and for our listeners, a quote from Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center. This is right off their website, and it echoes, Deirdre, what you were just saying. And I'll quote, mistletoe extracts have shown anti-cancer effects in animal models. Human studies support the use of mistletoe to improve symptoms and quality of life in pancreatic, lung, colorectal, and breast cancer. It may also prolong survival. Now, what you and I know from our own experience is the extraordinary safety of these modalities. So here we have an avenue of care that can make you feel better while you're fighting your cancer. And although not fully proven, may have the potential to help prolong survival. And I know I've borne witness to some of our patients just doing better in their clinical presentation. The ultimate dream and the goal is to find cures for things. But in the absence thereof, finding your best day every day is part of the objective. And it sounds like that's an area where there's really fairly broad research support and a lot of consensus regarding mistletoe, vitamin C, and other modalities when it comes to supporting that quality of life element. Is that what you've seen in your center with your patients? Now, we have about a minute left. Just give us a snapshot about how this stuff is supposed to work. What do people think it's doing to help fight cancer? That's so exciting. So they attack the cancer potentially directly, supporting immune function as well. Deirdre, I have to have you back. This is too much fun. Can you be on the show again in the future? If you could, it's been fun. You can hang out, and I'm going to tell you and our listeners about a urine drug test that your doctor can use to spy on you and make sure you're taking your drugs. Wouldn't that be great? Right? So your doctor can force you to take your pills. The next thing you know, they'll be just having the pills march in your mouth automatically while you sleep. Anyhow, it's great having Dr. Deirdre Orsayer from the George Washington Integrative Healthcare Center. She is a naturopath and a leader nationally in oncology support with intravenous mistletoe and subcutaneous. We'll look forward to talking to you again. Thanks, Deirdre. You too. We'll be back right after this break. We're going to tell you about that sneaky test that they're going to impose on you that's going to steal your freedom. And we're going to tell you about the drugs to not take so it won't crush your brain, antidepressant drugs, drugs to control your bladder. Stay with us. This is Intellectual Medicine. I'm Dr. Steve Petteruti. Where were we? We were talking about something important. Before we left, somebody text Shannon, please, and remind me of what I was talking about. That was Deirdre Orsayer. She's a naturopathic physician. You will find the naturopathic physicians to be like her, thoughtful, contemplative, centered, very holistic in their sense of preserving your vitality, and very cautious about the use of drug therapy and orthodox modalities. What have we learned over the really months now, years of listening to the show? How many things have we brought to light that cause harm, that initially seemed like a great idea, and we find out it's damaging people? Orthodox medicine, if it were listed as a cause of death, would be the number 3 leading cause of death, right behind heart disease, cancer, then it would be medical treatment. Whether you're looking at iatrogenic injuries, which is accidents that happen in the hospital, side effects of drugs or therapies that are imposed on patients, right? Look, sometimes death happens in a sincere, good-hearted, and reasonable attempt to preserve life. Too often, our orthodox modalities are given without due diligence or reflection regarding their positive adverse consequence. I know because I used to be one of those doctors. The drugs that I used to give without thinking about their consequence, the philosophy that I internalized regarding orthodox medicine. Drugs are better if I don't have a pill for you. There's not anything really wrong with you, right? How about this for a pathway of care? If I can't fix you, you must be, fill in the blank, neurotic, depressed. I'm going to put you on antidepressant because I don't know. You must be depressed because all my brilliance can't fix you. How about giving antibiotics just to nip that sore throat in the bud? Holy cow. How about cortisone shots in the knee because it hurts? Okay, studies have shown that corrodes the health of the knee over time. Short-term comfort, long-term toxicity. On this show, we learned about lead. 400,000 deaths per year associated with chronic low-grade lead exposure. Who's at risk? Everybody. We all get exposed every day, folks. Where else have you heard people talking about it? Oh, nowhere. When's the last time your doctor wanted to know what your lead level was? They have no clue. It is because the fund of knowledge gets directed by the healthcare industry, which is interested in promoting knowledge that would support use of their drugs. In medicine, we have something called CME requirements, continuing medical education requirements. We have to punch those tickets or we lose our license. Those tickets that we punch are preordained on topics that have been selected for us. You want to learn about lead? Your ticket's not getting punched. Oh, blood pressure, new drugs? Sure, all day long. Look, there's a finite amount of time in everybody's day. And the doctors are people, and they have families, and they have bills to pay, and they have stuff to do, and they're saturated. Therefore, for them to go out and acquire the knowledge necessary to speak like I do to you about things that matter, it's beyond the pale of their ability in many cases. Good-hearted people, well-intended, crushed by the system. Then they want to take your freedom away by taking those of us who are so audacious as to seek the knowledge and share it. They want to portray us as being dangerously outside of the bounds of normalcy. Stay with me. We'll have some dangerous fun. Yeah, I'm Dr. Petteruti. We're back in the saddle. Were we ever in the saddle, Shannon? I don't know. Well, we're in the saddle. The question is, what animal are we riding? Where's it going? Okay? I could tell you, folks, it's Dr. Steve Petteruti, Intellectual Medicine. here at WPRO, the voice of Southern New England, speaking for intellectual medicine, including our colleague and friend, Dr. Michael Souza, over in East Bay, where he is practicing intellectual medicine and helping reams of patients. Center is absolutely magnificent. If you have any issues medically, you want to stay healthy, you want to pursue that youthful 120-year lifespan, you're tired of the dogma of orthodox medicine beating you to a pulp, these are your opportunities, folks, to step outside of the flow. We're just talking about conformity. Conformity represents a loss of freedom if it is exclusive. In medicine, you've heard this before, consensus opinion. There's a consensus. That means we all think alike. If you follow the consensus, you'll never be in trouble. Nobody will ever bother you. You'll be invisible. You'll just be there. Why do you think you have such a hard time, folks, getting doctors to engage you when you talk about weird stuff? Doctor, tell me what you think about bioidentical hormones. Some doctors will turn their nose up. Oh, goodness, that's just against consensus of opinion. We want you to age the old-fashioned way. We want your bones to collapse, your brain to fade. We want your genitals to shrink. We don't care about your libido function. We are orthodox doctors. We have serious things to talk about, not your piddly, little, withering, aging body. I don't care about your mid-abdominal fat, you poor woman. Get bigger clothes. I don't care about your fading brain. I care about your cholesterol. Let's talk about it. Oh, by the way, I got a computer report from CVS that tells me you're not taking your drug. Let's talk about that. We get these reports. They drive me nuts from the pharmacy companies telling us, oh, your patient's not taking the drug. That's creepy to me. How much freedom are we going to lose when they gather information? Because you see, people, you're just too stupid to realize that you need to take more drugs. That's the key to health. Yeah. More pharmacology. Now comes Cardi Assure. Cardi with a K, Assure. This is brilliant. This is phenomenal. It's going to change the face of medicine. We now have, Shannon, a urine drug test that can determine whether or not you're taking your blood pressure pills. Isn't that great? Orthodox medicine loves this. Excuse me, Mrs. Smith, can you pee in a cup right now for me? Well, why, doctor? I think you're lying to me. I don't think you're taking your drugs. They pee in the cup, and they can find out whether or not you're taking your blood pressure. This is awful. This is awful. They try to portray this as a good thing. Why? Because you're too stupid to know that you need to take your drug, because you're a lying, cheating, overeating, mentally incompetent human being that needs us to tell you what to do. There's orthodox medicine in a nutshell. And if you don't know what to do, we're gonna penalize you. Here's what I fear, folks. This test is horrible. The ability of the state to look in your medicine cabinet is horrible, does more harm than good. Because what happens when you choose not to take your blood pressure drug? You just don't want to take it. It makes you feel like crap. Yes, I know my risk of a stroke may go up a little bit, doctor. I'm willing to accept that. I don't like this drug. I'm going to find a different pathway. How about this, folks? How about you get reported to your insurance company that drops you for noncompliance? How about your life insurance drops you because you're not taking the drug and your doctor did the test to prove it? This is the insidious corrosion of freedom that I'm talking about, that starts with an innocent presumption. We're doing it for your good, for your well-being. The drugs that we use, we believe in them disproportionately. We're just talking about why intellectual medicine is necessary, why Dr. Michael Souza chose to break free, why other doctors are joining this approach, whether they're part of intellectual medicine in fact or in spirit. It's because the fund of knowledge needs to be expanded in order to meet patients' needs. There's something we have in medicine called continuing medical education. It sounds great, right? I want a smart doctor. He better get a CME. Problem. That CME is dictated by orthodox medicine. Certain topics are the ones that they endorse, others they don't. In order to keep his or her license, your doctor needs to get so many of these per year. The topics are dictated to them. By the time they spend their money on the course, spend their time taking the course, they often don't have time to study other fields. Why is it your doctor doesn't talk to you about bioidentical hormones? Why is it that your doctor doesn't measure your lead level to protect your brain? Why is it that they're so rushed? Because it's being forced down their throats. Hey, 24 hours in everybody's day the last time I checked. And if you're devoting all your energy, your spare time to just memorizing the orthodoxy, your freedom is limited. And if your doctor's freedom is limited, and if intellectual medicine is limited, and if your outlets for alternatives are limited, you are limited. You've lost your freedom. Why is this all important? Speaking truth to power. Dementia, right? It's rampant and it's growing. We now know that there are drugs that we have historically used without thought to their consequence long term that increase dementia risk. Drugs for depression, amitriptyline. Drugs for urinary incontinence, leaking urine, oxybutynin. Sound familiar, folks? Drugs for Parkinson's disease, procyclidine, have been associated with a 30% increased dementia risk. Article in the British Medical Journal. A companion article in the journal Lancet from December 2017 advocates to start in your 40s to do things to protect your brain. Why? The lag time is 10 to 20 years. Remember gadolinium, Shannon, that study done by the FDA to prove that it was safe? Gadolinium is a contrast dye used in MRIs. Sometimes it's essential to use, but it's portrayed as a benign agent. Well, we now found out it accumulates in your brain. Now, common sense tells me that having globs of heavy metal gadolinium in my brain is probably not good. They did a study, the FDA declared it safe. The study lasted 3 years. You know it takes 10 to 20 years for an insult to the brain to manifest itself as dementia. The study is inadequate. The conclusion is premature. We need to do things now to protect the brain. Well, we're talking about some of them. Avoid drugs that kill your brain. You know what else can damage it? How about Benadryl? Yeah, how about that? What else can damage your brain? Lead. We talk about it all the time with good reason. We're the few people that are highlighting this issue. 400,000 preventable deaths per year due to chronic lead exposure. Not to mention the long-term corrosive effect on lead that accumulates in your body. It must be tested, and in our view, it should be removed through chelation. The only question is how vigorously. Now, coming up next is our good friend Tony DeJesus at Big Blue Bug Solutions, and he helps kill bugs. That's a good thing. But the stuff used to kill bugs are nerve agents that are toxic to humans. What does gradual accumulation of these do to a human being over time? Well, if you're an expert, you know how to handle it. That's cool. If you're John Weekender, for God's sakes, get that crap out of your garage. Those are neurotoxins. How about crazy crabgrass season, Shannon? Get that Roundup. Let's get that little Roundup and go out and spray it.
I see people buying that. I want to, jump on their cards.
Roundup, folks, is Agent Orange with a couple of molecules shifted. It's got a nice, cozy name. Look, I never knew. Does crabgrass cause cancer? That's a question.
Does anyone really like it, though?
I don't think so. Yeah. You got to hate crabgrass pretty damn bad to put your health at risk. Well, folks, we are here every week talking about the things that keep you alive, keep you young, keep you vital. Along with Dr. Michael Souza, East Bay Intellectual Medicine. This is Dr. Steve Petteruti, along with Shannon. Doing things to keep you young and vital. Get your hormones, get the lead out. And when you are facing a calamity, come talk to us. We'll try to help navigate your way through it. Wishing you 120 youthful years, I'm Dr. Steve Petteruti. See you next week. Well, guys, thanks for tuning in. We love our Facebook audience. We know you have to put forth extra effort to get to us, and we honor your support and your presence. Every week we'll be here. Today we talked about mistletoe therapy. Yes, we have it available at Intellectual Medicine. Yes, we might be a little bit nutty to offer it, but we believe in our patients' freedom of choice, and we know that we can do them good, even at some personal and professional risk by making this advanced therapy available. It's now manufactured in the United States. It's completely legal and legitimate to offer in a balanced fashion with appropriate reflection, properly integrated. We believe this is going to help people live better. See you next week.